Creamer Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing Fortune Mojapelo, the CEO of Bushveld Minerals. Fortune, it's great to chat to you again. Please give us an overview of vanadium batteries in general and, the need for renewable energy.
You will know that we also have an energy business where we have over the years made significant progress with ensuring that, we build that downstream business across three main activities: the construction of an electrolyte manufacturing plant, which we are doing in partnership with Industrial Development Corporation, developing a hybrid mini grid at Vametco, which will supply initially about 10% of our power requirements there, utilizing solar and vanadium redox flow batteries. And then thirdly, our investments that we have made into VRFB manufacturing. So we are active across that entire value chain.
What role can your vanadium batteries play in conjunction with renewable energy to help our South African energy situation?
There are a couple of things, right? I mean, one of them is that when you have renewable energy, you reduce the carbon footprint of your operations. I think that's a significant benefit itself. Reducing the impact of load shedding that we have seen from Eskom. And what is quite important for us with this particular mini grid is that we're not going to be paying more in terms of energy tariffs than we are paying to Eskom. I think if anything, going forward into the future, we expect that solutions like this will be delivering power to us cheaper than we would be paying to the national utility. We have showcased that this can be done, and it's for the rest of the industry, in our view, to learn from. And we certainly hope that we're going to see more deployment of systems like this across the industry, starting, of course, with ourselves in terms of scaling up this mini grid for our own requirements, which are more than 10 times what the size of this project is.
In what way can vanadium energy storage solutions help to ensure a just energy transition?
One of the key things about vanadium flow batteries particularly is they're ideal in long duration applications, right? So if we're talking, for example, things like if you want to do peak shaving or load shifting at 4 hours, 6 hours duration, that's going to be particularly quite important there that you get long duration solutions such as vanadium flow batteries. And the utility Eskom is increasingly recognizing the need for this, which you will see, for example, the recent procurement program for 1,400 megawatt hours, with talk of a lot more coming further down the road. Long duration batteries play a very, very important role, one, in improving the efficiency of your grid. They play an important role in supporting the integration of renewable energy into your grid. And we know that renewable energy is the future when it comes to energy generation. And, energy storage provides that big enabler. In addition to giving renewable energy a lot of flexibility, the sun shines its brightest during off-peak periods. And ideally, you want to be storing that energy and using it during peak periods when you're running those diesel generators, and which are obviously quite expensive. Similarly, if you look at wind generation, its peak generation capacities during off-peak windows from a demand perspective. Pair that with long duration energy storage, and you can deploy this power flexibly into the areas, into the time zones when you need it the most. And overall, by doing that, you are actually improving the efficiency of your grid. And as I said, you're also enhancing the contribution of renewable energy to your grid.
How could vanadium redox flow battery technology help to achieve the 5,000 megawatt storage target?
To achieve this, we will need a mix of different technologies. If you think about lithium ion today, it has a lot of production capacity, but most of it is allocated to the electric vehicle market. We think that when you have a mix of technologies, you will see a reduction of the risk of those supply chains and the reduction of the risks in terms of increasing costs. We've seen, for example, lithium prices go up almost 5 times in the recent past. So is it doable? Yes, it is doable, but we think it's going to require a mix of certainly a mix of technologies. The other point to mention also is that you need to think about this mandate in terms of what the applications are going to be. So there are some uses which will be much shorter duration, and then devote the types of technologies that are more suitable to shorter duration into those use cases. And then there are other applications which are much longer duration, which is where you find things like vanadium flow batteries being particularly attractive. I think the opportunity also within all of this is that, I've always argued that, with South Africa, we've got the resource base for battery metals, right? Whether it's lithium or vanadium flow batteries, we've got abundant resources. We've got processing infrastructure, which is critical to develop the value chains. And, this is a great opportunity for the country to be developing greater localization strategies and taking advantage of the kind of demand that we already have in South Africa. I mean, 5,000 megawatt is huge. So now you've got the resource base, you've got the processing infrastructure, and you've got a local demand for energy storage. Use that to create an industry, right? And to own the value chains. And when you do that, actually, guess what? South Africa is not the only market. Now you actually have an opportunity to supply a growing global market opportunity. And I think that, this is a generational opportunity and one that we certainly should not miss.
Just if we can look again at long duration vanadium battery storage, how competitive is this? And what could be the local content aspects of a technology like this?
The power system has different needs that can be provided by energy storage. ESCOM, for example, identified about 18 different uses. Some of them are what you call ancillary services. They require fairly short bursts of power, lasting minutes to 1 hour and maybe 2 hours. And that's where, again, we're saying short duration technologies can come in. But there are other uses that require 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 or 10 hours storage, needed on a daily basis, right? So if we are talking about shifting solar energy into the evening, which I talked about earlier on, or wind, then you need long duration batteries. And as far as those are concerned, we think vanadium flow batteries are the best solution. One of the reasons for that is the fact that within a VRFB, the energy is stored within these tanks of electrolyte, and that's separate from the power unit. So if I want to store more energy, I don't need to replicate the entire system. I just need to increase the sizes of the tanks. And therefore, that's why at longer duration applications, VRFBs just become a lot more competitive. The other point is that these are long life battery systems, right? They last for 20 years plus. And the electrolyte doesn't degrade over that duration, which means that you can use it at the end of the life of that battery in another battery as well. And that makes them one of the most sustainable battery solutions out there that you can deploy. And by the way, we've shown this at Vametco that we can take that electrolyte back to our operations and convert it into ferrovanadium. So you don't really need to build new recycling facilities down the road in terms of dealing with electrolyte at the end of the life of the battery. So that's why we think VRFBs are the most sustainable and ideal solution when it comes to long duration energy storage. Now, for South Africa, another point that is particularly worth noting is the fact that we've got abundant resources here of vanadium. There's 4 primary processing plants of vanadium in the world today. 3 of them are in South Africa. And the reason is because that's where we've got the grade and that's where we've got the resource scale. If the world needs to double its production of vanadium, the resource base is there. We're going to just need to build more and more processing infrastructure. Now, the other thing around that is not only will we produce the vanadium, we talked earlier on that we're building an electrolyte manufacturing facility in East London in partnership with Industrial Development Corporation. We actually take this vanadium, convert it into electrolyte, and we can deploy it into the batteries in this country with a very, very high degree of local content. The mini grid that we are going to be starting construction now, which we expect to commission in the first half of next year, it will contain vanadium that was mined at Vametco, right? And which has been processed into electrolyte. Of course, just because our electrolyte plant is not up and running yet, that vanadium had to be turned into electrolyte at another facility. But if that facility had been up and running, we'd have been taking vanadium from our mine through our processing plant, converting it into electrolyte at our electrolyte facility, deploying it right back at the mine to solve our own power requirements.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Fortune Mojapelo, the CEO of Bushveld Minerals, which is listed on the AIM in London.